What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. Let's go ahead and talk about the New Orleans Saints coaching search because a lot has happened over the last couple of days. And the first off is, I guess, has to do with who is no longer there. Now, this first name doesn't mean much because he wasn't ever seriously in play for the Saints, but Ben Johnson, and you know, a move that we all kind of thought was coming. Ben Johnson, after the Lions get eliminated, has been announced as the Chicago Bears' next head coach. He will throw his lot in with Caleb Williams and see if he can bring success to the Bears. In some news that was much more relevant to the New Orleans Saints, Aaron Glenn has decided to become the head coach of the New York Jets. And I do find this to be a bit funny because, you know, we were sitting here like, some people saying Aaron Glenn, he's been telling everybody he clearly wants the New York Jet job over the New Orleans Saints, and that was, quote, vehemently refuted. But I don't know. It feels like it actually was the case, as he never took a visit down here. He went up to New York. They kept him from getting out of the city. He never made his way down to New Orleans, as he decided to accept the job and end up as the New York Jets head coach. And really a cool moment for Aaron Glenn, I'm sure. He's drafted by the Jets in 94. He then starts scouting for them in 2012. So both his playing and coaching career began here at one of the most legendary, if not the most successful NFL franchises of all time, one of the biggest stages. To go from being a young player and a young scout to now you are the head man of the organization, very cool moment for Aaron Glenn, right? Drafted in 94, scouting in 2012, now in 2025, in about 12 years, about a decade gap between each one, he's the head coach. Badass rise for Aaron Glenn. But what that means is he's no longer in play for the New Orleans Saints. Okay, well then who is number one? And it seems like right now most Saints wish lists have two names on them. And the context surrounding the names are pretty polar opposite. One is Joe Brady. Of course, everybody around these parts knows Joe Brady. He used to be a Saints assistant. Then he goes to LSU, co-offensive coordinator, him, Steve Insminger, Joe Burrow, engineer. Maybe the greatest offense that we've ever seen. He then, from there, rockets to the top, right? To Carolina, the new hot phenom under Matt Rule. And it just did not work out in Carolina. But he didn't give up. He continued to grind. He ends up getting this Bills job, and it's gone very well. Josh Allen has a career year, despite the fact that he doesn't have the weapons that he's had in the past. And, well, overall, Joe Brady's resume, while not the most extensive, is very impressive when you look at the highs of it. And so a lot of people, he's kind of that lottery ticket candidate, right, where no head coaching resume, but young, at the forefront, I guess you could say, of offensive theory. Again, Josh Allen was always awesome, but he was more awesome this year than he's ever been. So you credit Brady for that. You figure that the Saints over the next couple of years will be in the market for a young quarterback. Well, wouldn't you want to pair him with a very good young offensive mind to maybe get him ready? So Joe Brady, that is something that he would check all of those boxes. And then the other one's Mike McCarthy. And there's a lot of talk out there that maybe Mike McCarthy's the actual front runner. And he's opposite of Brady in that, again, he has a very extensive head coaching resume, a proven winner. As we said, it's basically the exact same resume as Sean Payton and Mike Tomlin, only maybe slightly better, really functionally not better, but like objectively slightly better. But what do you think about this fact? One of the other key differences between McCarthy and Joe Brady is the market for him. The Saints don't really appear to be competing with anybody for Mike McCarthy's services. And that is something that always gives me a bit of pause. Now, again, the resume is a resume. It's a very good, proven winner in the NFL, so should it concern me as much as it does? Like, I don't know that it's the most solid basis of analysis if it's just that my biggest problem with hiring a guy is that nobody else wants to hire him, but I don't also think that it's nothing. Whereas with Joe Brady, he's one of the top names remaining. And in fact, it looks like your main competition for Brady, if that's where you end up going, is going to be Jacksonville. And we mentioned it. We were talking about what are the best jobs available. Did we end up putting the Bears and then Jacksonville as the top two?
So we did Bears. Jacksonville was 3.
Okay. Who was 2? Either way, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is that the reporting is that the Saints and Jacksonville are going to be fighting over Joe Brady. And I wonder if the Saints, it's funny, this weather potentially not timing up at the best time, as a lot of these interviews have had to be pushed back to the end of the week. And especially with Brady, you got to wait for him to get done with this playoff run now. Potentially between the Super Bowl, maybe you could fly in and do a in-person visit, or maybe you just keep it a virtual. But the bottom line is, if it is Joe Brady, like if you want Joe Brady, can you do what the Jets did to you? Or can you get him in town before Jacksonville does, and then if he is your guy, allow him not to leave? Don't even give him a chance to go visit Jacksonville and meet Trevor Lawrence and get all excited about what potentially could be there. The same way the Jets did not give Aaron Glenn a chance to come to New Orleans. Again, I don't know if I think that the Saints are a more attractive job than Jacksonville, but he does have some ties already here in New Orleans. Here's an interesting side note that I read that has nothing to do with the Saints, but Liam Cohen actually turned down. He was thought to be the front runner for the Jags job, and then he took his name out the running. I wonder why. You would feel like for Liam Cohen that this would be like, getting an NFL head job would be the culmination of a lifetime of work. And then in the Jags, well, yeah, it's Jags. I mean, you got Lawrence, you got everybody else, but maybe something going on behind the scenes there that in NFL circles, people not too impressed. So I'm not entirely sure, but Liam Cohen taking his name out the running.
So Jacksonville just fired their GM last
Trent
night.
Baalke.
Yeah, which a lot of people were on board with. But also, I think that's a good move for Cohen because, look, he's had a lot of success with Baker. And if you remember, in L.A., they were together. So they've been together 2 stops. They've had a lot of success. I'm guessing that's not the job he absolutely wanted. I mean, there's teams out there like Cincinnati Bengals that have a really good quarterback that their coach is on the hot seat. Maybe Cohen's thinking, hey, I'm really good with Baker. We're in all likelihood going to have a good season together offensively next year. I can bounce off of that and get any job I want next offseason.
Maybe so. Maybe he wants to be the next Ben Johnson. We'll see if he can end up getting there. But so, again, I feel like I'm being a bit scattered here. I was a little distracted at the start of the segment. But Joe Brady, Mike McCarthy, those appear to be the Saints' top 2 options. Not much competition for McCarthy. Looks like you'll be competing with Jacksonville for Brady. Who do you prioritize? With the timing, you could get McCarthy in for a visit this week. And if you have him for an in-person visit, do you go ahead and pull the trigger if that's your guy? Or do you be patient? Do you wait? And you kind of see what happens with the Bills this weekend and whether or not maybe you can get Brady in sooner rather than later. We'll have to see. Speaking of interesting GM rumors, so TJ Jones, who does Saints podcast, he's a really good follow on Twitter, good guy. But he had a pretty interesting tweet that has done some numbers here. And I'll be clear about this tweet. I do not believe it to be 100% like factual in the sense that I think that the person that told TJ this would definitely be a person considered to be in the know. And I think there is probably some truth here, even if it is a bit hyperbolized. But he tweeted out, quote, "The New Orleans Saints had a strong chance of hiring Aaron Glenn as their head coach. However, Glenn requested that the team consider moving on from Mickey Loomis as general manager and allow him to be involved in the hiring of a new GM. The Saints were not willing to make this change, according to sources." So again, that seems like I don't think it's crazy to think that Aaron Glenn may have, through some back channels, maybe gotten that across. Are we willing to do this? But also, it's probably not as clear-cut as the tweet makes it out to be. I guess the overall takeaway here would be that it's a rumor that is perfectly positioned to trigger Saints fans. Because, as we said, objectively, in almost any other franchise, Mickey Loomis would get what happened to Trent Baalke today, and he would no longer be GM, but because of the unique circumstances here where he is essentially a made man and he can decide, hey, I do not want to fire myself, of course he's not going to. And how much of a turnoff, if it was a turnoff for Aaron Glenn, how much of a turnoff is it for a McCarthy or a Joe Brady? I mean, I guess McCarthy's just getting done dealing with Jerry Jones, so can't get much more extreme than that in terms of your kind of owner-GM combination that Mickey Loomis kind of represents. But it's the last chance for Mickey to try to get this right. Where will he end up going? We will just have to wait and see. But Ben Johnson gone, Aaron Glenn gone, and it looks like Joe Brady and Mike McCarthy, the next guys up to the podium. Anything before we move on to search?
I was going to say this in the group chat last night because we were talking about it, or was it the day before or something like that? I was going to say, like, I don't think anybody else is really going after Mike McCarthy.
No.
And the Joe Brady thing, for some, like, I don't hate it, but I don't want the Saints to be an experiment for him to be, like, a head coach, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean,
like,
you go ahead.
No, like, I just feel like it'd be a better fit if we had Mike McCarthy, but you make a good point. Like, is he going to want to deal with Jerry Jones Jr.? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think that is the entire conversation is we keep calling them lottery ticket OCs.
Yeah.
Do you try to hit on your Kevin O'Connell, your young OC who understands, or maybe to a lesser extent because he's a bit older, but like a Kyle Shanahan or something, right? But like your OC, or like Sean McVay when he was hit on a few years ago. What was he, 33, 31, maybe even something ridiculous, absurd? Like, do you want that guy? Because if you get that guy, like if Joe Brady is that guy, then you're good for, what, 10 years?
Yeah.
15 years?
Yeah.
But that's the lottery. But then it's also, you scratch off the numbers and you don't win.
Yeah.
And then you end up with nothing.
He's also used. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I guess it's simply this. Brady, potential higher ceiling, but Mike McCarthy has a high floor.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know about Brady's floor. The floor could completely fall out.
He's also used to, like, Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, not Derek Carr. So.
Well,
Yeah.
and to her point, when he was the OC at the Panthers, he didn't have a quarterback, and it ended kind of badly. So right now, like, is it Brady? Is it the QB? We don't know. But here's the thing. We were talking about the Jaguars firing their GM, right? There's a rumor that they might bring in Mike McCarthy for an interview. That's something that's happening. And I got to be honest, I think Mike McCarthy fits the Jacksonville Jaguars perfectly. You need somebody to come in and fix Trevor Lawrence. You've seen, because say what you want about Dak Prescott, more times than not, Mike McCarthy got the best version of Dak Prescott. He's won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. He's been there, done that. He knows how to build a culture. That Jacksonville team, offensively and defensively, has a lot of really, really young talent. They just need a leader. They need somebody to establish a culture. I think Mike McCarthy's actually perfect for the Jaguars.
It is interesting, though, because they're coming off of Doug Peterson.
I get it.
Who was very similar. Now, doesn't have the overall resume of McCarthy, but also a veteran coach, also Super Bowl winner, also a guy who at times did maximize quarterback play. So
I just think that you can't waste any more of Trevor Lawrence if Joe Brady doesn't work out. You almost have to go get a sure thing if you're the Jags. Because when you're the Saints, you almost cut your losses at this point. You know what Derek Carr is. He's been in the league for a long time. He's not going to get any better.
Whatever.
Trevor, we've seen those flashes. If you can get a coach to kind of get him going in the right direction, your whole franchise can turn around.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Saints.